Have you ever felt lost at a point you couldn't even name? Time doesn't scream as it passes. It simply moves the furniture around, slowly. And one day you wake up and realize everything is different, including the silence. There's no fallen map on the floor, no footprints in the dust to follow, only a strange hollowing, a missing presence of yourself, an echo without origin. In the house I lived in for decades, there was a chair I never sat in. It stood in the corner of the room facing the window, my only silent witness. And now I see, it was there that I was waiting for myself. All these years, that chair was an unmoving mirror, reflecting what I had refused to hear. The voices I silenced, the desires I delayed, the names I never called back. The chair knew where I was. I saw my youth like someone watching a drifting boat, too afraid to call out to it. I let it go without waving, believing it would return on some calmer morning. But the days became months, and the months stacked into decades. There was no return. Only the creak of the chair when the wind slipped through the window crack as if asking, "Do you still remember yourself?" 70 years. And only now I understand where I got lost, in the space between who I was and what I never dared to touch, between the memory I repressed and the tenderness I denied. Time didn't steal me. I simply stopped looking for myself. Do you also feel like you drifted away from yourself at some imperceptible moment? That life kept going while you were quietly saying goodbye to parts of yourself you never knew you were abandoning? The house where I grew old carries ghosts that don't know my name. They don't slam doors or drag chains, they just stare at me. Every day, with the same eyes I refused in the mirror. They are versions of me I left behind. The boy who cried in secret. The man who said, "I'm fine," while dying inside. The elder who learned to smile without his eyes. All of them seated at the table, silent, waiting for me to recognize them. Each room holds a forgotten gesture. In the bedroom, the scent of someone who left before I found the courage to say stay still lingers. In the kitchen, the cracked cup remains on the shelf, as if to remind me that some fractures are permanent, yet still hold warmth. In the hallway, the portraits smile like relics of a time that insists on seeming lighter than it truly was. I walked through life with pockets full of excuses. I said, it's not the right time, maybe later, someday, who knows? But I never knew that these maybes age too. And today I see the opportunities didn't vanish. I simply arrived too late for them, tripping over fears I disguised as prudence. There's a sadness that doesn't cry. It just watches. It follows me on long days when the sky feels like a foggy mirror and the clock seems tired of ticking. That sadness doesn't ask for anything. It just stays. And I've learned to serve it like an old guest, offering it tea, sitting beside it, listening to its silence as one might listen to a forgotten prayer. Maybe that's what loneliness really is. A reunion with what we buried alive within ourselves. There is a mirror at the bottom of the well, but no one teaches us how to descend to it. We spend our lives tossing coins, making hurried wishes, hoping some desire might rescue what we've lacked the courage to search for. But one day, when the echoes fade, we are forced to look, and then we no longer see a face, only the worn outline of a soul forgotten by itself. The hermit archetype doesn't live only in mountains or caves. He walks among us in the hallways of silent houses, on park benches where old men watch the world without being seen. He carries a lantern, not to light the way for others, but to remind us that some parts of ourselves only glow when we accept the dark. Within me, the hermit awoke late. He slept for years beneath layers of paperwork, calendars, duties, and obligations. When I finally awakened to his presence, he said nothing. He simply pointed inward. And there, where the world doesn't reach, I found a door locked with the keys of my childhood. To relive is different from remembering. Remembering is repeating images. Reliving is feeling the weight of what went unsaid. The scent of the room where you once cried in secret. The sound of a name you never heard again. To relive is to find the boy you were and see in his eyes the question that still burns. Why did you leave me alone for so long? Time now does not heal. It confronts. It brings not comfort, but mirrors. And each mirror reflects not who I am, but who I had to kill to survive. The tenderness silenced. The desire never lived. The faith I abandoned when I stopped looking at the sky as one who waits for an answer. Perhaps the greatest loss of old age is not the body, but the fragments of soul that never returned. One morning when I opened the window, I realized the wind no longer recognized me. It was the same ancient breeze that once tangled the hair of my childhood and made me believe the world was full of possibility. But now, it merely passed through me, like one who has forgotten an important name. Nature has memory, and when we stop belonging to ourselves, it forgets us too. The garden, once so alive, is now overrun with weeds I never planted. Each leaf growing without permission reminds me of a choice I never made. The tree at the center still blossoms, but its flowers seem paler now, as if they too carry the exhaustion of time. Perhaps aging is this, watching the world continue without us, even as we remain. The doorbell rarely rings, and when it does, it's never for me. The faces I once knew have moved on, to other cities, other lives, or into memory. What remains are voices recorded on old tapes, birthday cards stored in boxes, names written on letters never sent. My story is archived in yellowing paper, as if life itself had placed me on pause. And yet there is a strange peace in this exile. Loneliness, when accepted, reveals sacred contours. I begin to realize I'm not alone. I'm with myself. And though it aches, it is a form of return. I've learned to hear the sound of the kettle, the creak of the wooden floor, the slow movement of the wall clock. These are voices too, just older, more loyal. The absence of others begins to open space for the presence of what I always ignored. The silence that holds, the time that whispers, the self that endured. And in this near nothing there is a promise. Perhaps there is still time to return. To return is not to go backwards. It is to gather the fragments left along the journey. Returning is an act of tenderness toward what remains of us. And now, seated in that same chair I ignored for years, I realize I was never truly lost, only scattered. I lacked the courage to stay where it hurt. The window still frames the same sky, but my eyes no longer seek answers, only presence. Absence has become fertile ground. In the place where nothing seemed to grow, a gentle memory begins to bloom. The touch of an old hand, the laughter of a bright day, the certainty that despite all loss, something survived. Time does not return, but it reveals. 70 years later, I understand that what I sought outside of me was always here. In the pause between a sip of tea and the distant sound of a bell, in the gaze of the old man who looks back from the mirror, asking not for forgiveness but for attention. The soul does not demand speed, it only asks that we stay, even when all else falls silent. Today I no longer want to run. I want to be shelter for the parts of me that waited for decades. I want to be home for the boy, the man, the elder, all of them, finally, seated at the same table, sharing the same silence. If you too feel that you've lost yourself, know this: the way back is not behind you, it's within you. If this video touched something in you, light a candle tonight. Not for me, but for yourself. Sit in stillness. Look at an old object in your house and ask what it still knows about you. Then, if you feel like it, share in the comments. Where did you lose yourself? And what do you still long to reclaim? Subscribe to walk with me. Here, words do not teach, they accompany. May each video be a door, and each door a return to yourself.